This is a short bite episode of Homeschool Together. Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together Short Bite Edition. Today we're going to spend some time reviewing the great cooperative game Forbidden Island by Gamewright.
Yeah, this was our first Gamewright game. I don't think we knew about them until we got this game. We were like, what is this game company?
Well, and it was also, this game and, was the other one Forbidden Treasure?
Well, we have Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert. So,
Forbidden Desert,
yeah, if you look,
yes.
You'll see there's a trilogy. I think it's meant to be like the same group of adventures. Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, and then Forbidden Sky.
Forbidden Sky. That's
so,
right.
yeah.
And these are all in the genre of cooperative games. So this is something where multiple people play together. They all work together towards a common goal, and they're playing against the game. So where the game has some limiting factor built into it, whether it's through card rolling or dice rolling, some meter or some type of drawing sequence, there's some limiting factor that drives the game to some end.
Yeah, this was our first co-op. We had never had a co-op until we got this one, I don't think. And it really opened up this whole genre. I think the game designer on this is the same one that did Pandemic.
Oh, wow.
So this was his first co-op game.
But Pandemic is Gamewright? No, it's not Gamewright.
No, it's not Gamewright. That's Z-Man.
Z-Man,
but same game designer. So if that's one you've heard about. So just to break it down, Forbidden Island is a 2 to 4 player cooperative, as we said. It's a tile-based game, and we'd say it's probably ages 6 and up. You might need to help your 6-year-old a little bit, but we've played it with our 4-year-old, so I think that a 6-year-old could more than handle it.
I think it's really good for younger kids because there's a lot of discussion in the game.
Right, you're planning out your moves, right? So, cooperative games are always... We've talked about one cooperative game so far, right? We've talked about Hoot Owl Hoot, and that's very much a preschool game. This is definitely in the category of a family game. On Hoot Owl Hoot, the way the game kind of plays against you, I'm making air quotes you can't see, is that you're drawing tiles and you're drawing cards and you're drawing sun cards, and it's kind of taking away the time you have to get to the finish. Mm-hmm. This is sort of similar, but in that one, there was no special abilities. All players had the same thing. One of the things that's neat about Forbidden Island is that every player has unique abilities. So you are a group of adventurers. There's a whole bunch of tiles spread out on the table that represent a bunch of locations. And there are 4 treasures hidden. There's 2 tiles per treasure, so there's multiple places you could find this treasure. And you are hopping from tile to tile, trying to keep the island from sinking. So the tiles have a very vividly colored side, and then they have another side that's all blue with the same image.
It's kind of like it's underwater Atlantis type of thing.
Right. And so what's happening is, as every turn goes by, you're drawing cards, and you're trying to get a certain number of cards, like 4 or 5. I think it's 4 to go and claim this treasure. But you are also, every turn, drawing a certain amount of flood cards, and you're flipping these tiles.
And almost right out of the gate, you're kind of behind the 8 ball. And you're...
Right.
It is literally... There's an element of feeling like it's a race to the end. Right. Most times you're barely hopping along the board, getting to home to get to the helicopter to fly away.
Yeah, you have to collect all 4 treasures, so you can't let those tiles drop. Mm-hmm. You can't let the tiles drop that help you get to the end goal, which is this helicopter launch pad. You got to get everyone off the island. And while you're drawing cards, every once in a while you'll draw a Water's Rise card, which means that your number of tiles that will turn every turn is going to grow from like 2 to 3 to 4.
And I think the ones you just
turned,
flipped,
they get shuffled and they get put back on the top of the deck. Yes. So that means that the ones that there's some tiles that you're going to be constantly just trying to keep alive.
Yeah, and as part of the game, the 4 characters are out on the board, and you can flip tiles back as part of your thing. But if there's a sunken tile that's underwater, you can still go there, but if you draw that card again, it gets pulled out of the game.
Right, so you're starting to have these holes in the game board where you can't move, and you have one of the players can save 2 tiles per turn and for their action, and one player is a pilot. He can fly between tiles, and one player can give cards to another player. So this is in an effort to try to make sure that everyone has some amount of uniqueness, which I love, right? So you move from the preschool.
When you're playing all 4 players, it's really cool how they designed it. You need every single person.
Yeah, you really do. Every person's turn is important. And so you as a team are thinking about, okay, oh, you're the one that can do 2 tiles. Okay, I want to send you to this area where we just keep flooding tiles and we need to, you go over there. Okay, and I'm the pilot. I'm going to hop around and give cards to people, or right. So everyone kind of develop as a team, a strategy. So I love that from the preschool games where sure it was cooperative, which is great, but you were all kind of the same, to this game where everyone has some sort of unique ability. And if we're trying to explain this, and maybe we're explaining it poorly, but it is a pretty simple game to play. This has been one of the best gateway games we've done. We've played it with parents and grandparents, and they've been able to understand and play this game with us.
Yeah, these are people who maybe are traditionally Candyland, Monopoly, traditional board games, and not more...
Right.
I don't know a good way to say it. Not elevated.
I mean, these are nerdy board games.
More nerdy board games. Sort of like, we see Catan now in almost every store. But that wasn't the case 10 years ago.
Right, when we bought Forbidden Island, that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Forbidden Island, we had to go to our local weird game store.
Right, when it first came out.
Yeah. So now I think you can get Forbidden Island anywhere.
This is a terrific, I would say this is probably the lowest level as far as age and ability is concerned of nerdy family games. Right, we've talked about things like Telestrations and stuff that are party games, but this is really this is a nerdy board game, and this is about as basic as we can go. So down to kind of that 6-year-old age group. We've played it with our 4-year-old, and she's been able to play. We've had to help her quite a bit, but that's what's great about cooperative too, is that if one player is not as strong, the other players can rise up to help that person, right? They're not in it by themselves. So there's quite a bit of strategy. Where are you going to go? Who's going to go for what? Are you going to flip tiles? I also love this is not a super expensive game. It comes in a nice quality
let's talk
tin.
About the packaging is gorgeous, right?
Right. I mean, I know some people just absolutely hate when, serious gamers hate when games come in tins. I love that games come in tins from Gamewright, especially this one and Forbidden Desert and Sky, Sushi Go. A bunch of Gamewright games come in tins, which I really appreciate because it's just easier
and
to
even
keep
the
everything.
Pieces, the little things you're going for are really cool looking.
Yeah, they're nice quality plastic, and your tiles are nice quality. It's good quality components, and I feel like this is one of those games that we as a family are going to play from now. I mean, obviously we've already started playing a little bit, but I'd say really that 6-year-old age, to be solidly in it. We will play this up until our children are adults. This might be a forever game too that we keep and play with our grandkids because it's always fun. One of the things I love about it too is that there are different levels. So depending on how many cards you draw each turn is how difficult the game is. So you can start it at a really novice level and you can get to the point where it kicks our butt every time.
Yeah.
So you can dial that in.
Yeah, you get to a point almost, if people have played Pandemic before, where you're losing most of the time. Like
right.
The island sinks or, the landing sinks and you can't get off the island.
There's plenty of challenge in this game. We can absolutely ratchet this game up to the point that we cannot win it. And we play a lot of nerdy board games.
Yeah, a lot of the cooperative games, they dial up the intensity based on those initial conditions.
Right. So wherever you kind of start from is how fast you're going to... Because the whole thing is cooperative games are a spiraling thing, right? At some point, it spirals out of your control. It's all a game of even Pandemic, right? You're trying to, and we'll talk about Pandemic when we're out. We're not in a pandemic because it is a great game, but I'm not going to talk about it now. But we'll cover it someday when we're not in a real pandemic. But you're trying to keep everything okay, right? You're trying to keep all the cities from, right? So in this case, you're trying to keep all your tiles to be okay, while the game is progressively getting a little harder and a little harder the further the game goes on. So it puts incentive on the players to win, because at some point the game is going to spiral beyond your ability to control it.
You need to be, to steal a line from the Avengers movie, you need to be in the end game at that point,
right?
Making your way to
right
the
when
end.
It all all heck breaks loose. You really need to be ready to win, and so that's where those initial conditions they bring on the chaos faster. So you can decide. I mean, Matthew and I have absolutely been totally smashed by this game before, and then we can play it on easy and win every time. So there is a level for everyone. I think that this is a terrific family game. So I would absolutely put this on your list. It's a great intro to Gamewright games if you don't have any Gamewrights yet. Great quality components, really interesting and engaging theme. applies to all age groups. It's short, plays in about a half an hour, 2 to 4 players. So absolutely recommend pick up Forbidden Island. Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time,
happy homeschooling!